Hi, my beautiful angels, and welcome to our Soul Healing Summit Season 3. We get to find your healing modality. We get to explore so many possibilities and find the one that is right for you. And today we have a beautiful, amazing guest who is a true wizard and a true guide to so many. And I've been so lucky to have him as a mentor in my life for quite a few years right now. His name is Art Giser, and he's the founder of Energetic NLP. Hi, Art. How are you doing today?
Veronica, it's just wonderful to be with you. Your energy is always so just loving and beautiful. So it's my pleasure.
Absolutely. And I love that you wear the passion of red. And let's begin with that. How did you find this passion for energy work?
Boy, I think it found me. I mean, even when I was a little boy, I was interested in two things. One was science, and I wanted to be a great scientist when I grew up. But the other part of me wanted to be more mystical, and I just knew there were the powers of the unconscious mind and ESP. And even when I was very young in elementary school, I was hypnotized friends and cousins, and so with some of my cousins, I would still laugh about it. So I've just always had a fascination with the sense that we have incredible abilities, spiritual abilities, and how do we open up and tap into more and more of them?
So you're saying that you're playing with the idea of being a magician since you were a little boy?
Exactly.
Oh,
So
let's bring some of that magic because you actually went through the entire corporate industry before you came back to this magic.
before I was doing medical research and managing a research lab for the University of California Medical School in San Francisco, but then kind of concurrent with it, I've been doing work in corporations on leadership and teams and doing energy work with them, but not necessarily calling it that. So it's been kind of parallel.
Do
Mhm.
you feel that this is going to expand into something bigger? Can you combine more modalities into one?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm always taking workshops and classes and trying to add more things in. And sometimes I've collaborated with people who could add in some, things like qigong and other kinds of more physical processes. So yeah, I'm always looking for what else can we add in. And at the same time, I'm not trying to be the jack of all trades. It's you know, uh, my emphasis is on the NLP, spiritual development, and the energy work, but I'd like to bring in people who can add other things, which could be nutrition, could be body work, could be like say qigong or Feldenkrais or other kinds of neuromuscular kinds of things. They all fit together. So
Tell us about energetic NLP for somebody that doesn't know what that is.
NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. It was started actually in the 70s in California in a town called Santa Cruz. And it actually started right after I left, which I find kind of humorous. And um, and they were trying to figure out how do people make deep and rapid personal change. So first they thought of it in terms of therapy, and they studied some really, really great therapists who could get magical changes with people. And then they realized, well, it didn't just have to be therapy. It could be how do you open up more of people's abilities? How do you transfer skills? And NLP is a very magical field. And I do have to say nowadays, there's a lot of people who believe that NLP is about manipulation. And it's no more about manipulation than psychology, spirituality, literature. Anything powerful can be used to help people and it can be used to try to control people. And there are people who use NLP for their own purposes. Yeah, but NLP is about opening up more human potential. That's what NLP is. And energetic NLP is I realized that when you combined NLP with spiritual principles and healing and transformative energy work, working with the chakras and the aura and the energy field and energy channels, working with karma, spiritual contracts, past lives, then when you put all that together, you got something that was more incredible than any one of those by themselves. So energetic NLP is this synthesis of neuro-linguistic programming, spiritual principles, healing and transformative energy work, and other kinds of spiritual work.
Mm. And how is this different than other energy healing modalities out there?
there's some and I want to say there's a lot of great healing modalities out there. There's some things that are unique to energetic NLP. One is that most people that teach spirituality and energy work are always telling you what the truth is. This is the way things are. And one of the things that I brought from NLP is the idea that, who am I to say what the truth is? I share with people what I think, what my experience and my students' experience, my clients' experience, what's my best knowledge at the moment. But I'm always wanting people to connect to their spirit, their deep inner human wisdom, and to have that be senior to anything that I say. So I'll tell people, I want you to explore what I'm saying. I don't want you to believe it, because I don't believe what I'm saying. This is what I think today. I would hate it if 10 years from now I was saying exactly the same things I was saying today, or if they meant the same things to me. So one of the unique things about energetic NLP is that. Another is that in energetic NLP, you bring your spirit with its vast perspective and your deep inner human wisdom with its very practical wisdom together to form what we call your miraculous self, which is different than your high self. Your high self just exists. Your miraculous self only kind of sort of exists in the way that you have muscles in your body that they're there, but they really can't do much of anything. But when you start using them, they become supple, they become strong, you can do things with them. Well, your miraculous self, you would think that your spirit and your deep inner human wisdom would automatically come together, but they don't. So a unique thing about energetic NLP is we get out of analyzing everything and figuring everything out. And the role of the conscious mind in energetic NLP is to set intentions, give permission to receive, and give permission for your miraculous self to be in charge of what actually happens. Another thing that's unique about energetic NLP is that we really harness imagination. And when I was first learning energy work and spirituality, I had a lot of great teachers, but we were always trying to do it right. And I realized by accident years ago that that when I got people to be playful and to let go of doing it right and just pretend it's working, all of a sudden their abilities blossom. Because when you pretend you can do something, it opens up the abilities in your unconscious mind and in your spirit. So it becomes this portal that really lets your abilities flow and you can get into a flow state. One other thing there's a number of things unique about energetic NLP, but one more I'd like to say right now is something called whole being permission and alignment. And people learn things like The Secret and different kinds of manifestation techniques. And for the most part, they're only talking about what you're consciously thinking. Well, you're not just your conscious mind. And then some people go, oh, we have to add in the unconscious mind. But you're not just your conscious mind, your unconscious mind. You have a spirit, you have a soul, you have a conscious mind, you have an unconscious mind, you have a body. And if they're not all aligned, then either you don't manifest what you want, or you almost manifest it, or you manifest it and it falls apart. And then all of that alignment of the spirit, the soul, the conscious mind, the unconscious mind, the body exists within your karmic field and your spiritual contracts. So in energetic NLP, we work on all of those.
So in other ways, that's a practice that you have to, in a way, take responsibility and do it every day to align all those parts.
No, happily. I do recommend that people do simple energy clearing processes every day. In the same way that it's like you need to brush your teeth every day. You're never done. In the same way, your energy hygiene is something to do every day. Other things are things to do periodically. And a lot of people in the world, they could do whole being alignment like once every 10 years or something. They're not the kind of people that are attracted to your work or mine. The people that are attracted to our work are people that I think of them like flowers. They want to keep growing. They want to keep blossoming. They're moving towards the light. And since we're constantly evolving, it's something we need to do regularly. So that might be once a month. It might be once every few months. But for people like us, we're not static. So we need to keep realigning, but not every day.
Okay, good. Like drop everything. Let's do NLP every day. um,
No, 5 minutes twice a day, every day, you can do magic, you know?
Beautiful. That is the prescription. Let's start from that. Um, you've been doing this energetic NLP for quite a few years. Have you ever come to a point that you're like, you know what, there's another invention, there's another method that I'm more excited about that I want to enhance and develop? Or do you feel that your soul is purposely aligned to energetic NLP and this is your jam?
Well, energetic NLP is constantly growing and evolving. So if energetic NLP were the same thing it was 30 years ago, I would feel very restricted, or 10 years ago. But it's constantly growing. And as I said, I'm constantly learning from other people and modifying what's in energetic NLP. So it's like this organism that keeps growing and changing and evolving. So for me, there's not a need to go outside of it. There is a need. Well, I'm one of those people. Uh, one of my mentors said, like, you have an unnatural fear of repeating yourself. I mean, she said it humorously, but like for me, it's always about what's next, what's next. And when I was younger, it was like, like I'm not okay the way, even though I had a good self-concept, it was always like fixing things about myself. Now it's more about just this, like I say, like being like a flower, like I want to keep blossoming, I want to keep growing. And it's not because there's anything wrong with the way I am. And not that there aren't plenty of things to improve, but not there's anything wrong with the way I'm. It's just the joy of constant growth. And that's what I try to encourage with my clients and my students and the whole community in energetic NLP, is that the joy in our personal growth and evolution.
So, in other words, the only constant in our life is change.
Yes, and it's our personality. So the way I think of it, our spirit's whole and beautiful, and I think it's evolving on some level too, but it's our personality that. Let me say it differently. So a lot of older spiritual systems were only about transcendence. It was about, oh, this is the world of illusion or profaneness, or it's all hallucination, and how do we get out of it? Well, we went to a lot of trouble to incarnate into this world. And a lot of people believe, and I think you do too, that we're in a time when it's more about we're bringing more of our spirit into our lives rather than trying to escape so we can be spirit again. So, our true essence, our true self, is on some level growing and evolving, but it's more our personality evolving to allow us to manifest more of this magnificent, beautiful beings that we already are. And I do believe everybody on the planet, no matter how bad we might think they are, their essence of their being is this big, vast spiritual being. It's their
Mm,
personalities. It's so good.
mm. I wanted to ask a different question, but now I'm like, no, let's go deeper. So
Okay.
here's a question for you. As we made this choice to reincarnate in this time, and you say we do a lot of work and we don't want to leave and go to spirit, we want to bring the heaven or the spirit to us. What is the difference between, because obviously if we reincarnate, we chose the people that we're interacting with, we chose family members, we chose experiences. How come some of us chose tough experiences and others didn't?
Well, let me answer from a couple of different angles. And of course, this is one of the great philosophical questions. So my goal is just to contribute to it. I believe at the moment, another thing from energetic NLP is the idea of beliefs du jour, like soup du jour. So our beliefs of the day. So my belief of the day is that our spirit had a great deal of the choice about how we incarnated. I'm not sure that our soul always does. So, I've read a description that I like, that we are spirits, we have souls, and we're in bodies. So we are spirits, we have souls, and we're in bodies. And people define soul and spirit differently. But in that way of thinking, our soul is very attached to this lifetime and other lifetimes. And when I look at somebody's soul, what I'm calling their soul, it's like a click above our personality. It has wants and needs, and maybe in a past life, something really bad happened. So your soul's going, don't want that to happen again. And your spirit's on a whole different level. So, so I think definitely from the level of our personality, we don't experience it as a choice, until we learn that. And even our soul, I think, doesn't always experience it as a choice. Our spirit does. If I can compare it to, like, why do people go to sad movies? Why do people even go to slasher movies and stuff? Some people. We have this desire to explore the varieties of experience. And if we are, in fact, vast beings that have more than one lifetime, and even if you believe in parallel realities, which I do, we're even having more than one versions of this lifetime. So if you look at it from that angle, then you might want to have a lot of different experiences. So who knows if that's the truth of it? I mean, that's the way I think of it now. And so that different systems do believe that we're here for certain purposes that are beyond our fully understanding. Well, if I can share a brief story that kind of expresses how I think of this. I used to go to this spiritual center in Brazil a couple of times a year for years. And the whole part of town around the spiritual center the energy was like constantly strong. And it was a house that we would rent when we were there. And a friend of mine lived next door, and her cats knew me. And they, since when they were young. And so they'd hang out with me sometimes. So I'm outside and I'm reading a book, and one of the cats is sitting by my feet. And I like the idea that we're here to learn and grow. But one of the things that I do and I teach people to do is to meditate and ask for answers. So whenever I would meditate and I'd ask my guidance, is that why we're here to learn and grow? I'd always get the same answer, and somebody else might get a different answer. The answer I would always get is like, no, but that works for you. And I'd go, okay. And maybe, 4 to 6 months later, I'd meditate on it again, and I'd always get, no, but that's fine. That works for you. And this went on for a few years. So here I am in Brazil. I'm sitting outside, cat at my feet. I'm reading a book. And somehow it popped in my mind again. And I got the same answer, no, but that works for you. And I went, well, why are we here? And I felt compelled to look at the cat, like my head turned. And what I heard in my head was, you could as easily tell that cat why you're reading a book as we could tell you what you're doing here. So learn and grow is fine. That works for you. So
the answer is much bigger than we could comprehend with our human mind.
yeah, and one thing that's also not totally unique about energetic NLP, but different than a lot of kind of more new agey systems, even though it's certainly new agey, is that we embrace the mysteries, and that certain things we don't have words for, we don't have a frame of reference for, but we can connect to it. So I can feel that everybody's here doing something of great purpose. I can connect to that energy, even though I'm not sure what that purpose is, but I can feel it. And when you can learn to really connect to the great mysteries, you don't necessarily have to put them in a box. You don't have to understand them. You can let them guide you. My belief is every single person on the planet is part of some vast unfolding, for whatever the purpose is. And that whatever the purpose is, it's something I would consider good if I understood it. And that and the people that I think are evil, the people that I think are wonderful, the people that are drunk in a gutter, or shooting up in an alley, we're all part of some vast unfolding, and we're all interconnected.
We're all contributing.
I believe that very strongly. If I could share one more story.
Go ahead.
One of the things I used to wonder about was you hear about these really powerful people, powerful magicians or spiritual people or shamans, and sometimes they'd get killed or burnt at a stake or something. And I'd always wonder, well, if they were so powerful, how come that happened? How come they couldn't avoid it? And people were guiding me in the process once, and I went back and I was observing a past life. And what I'm about to describe was being shown to me metaphorically. Like, it was clear it wasn't literal. We were working on a problem that I would have with my throat. And I went back to this life where I was some kind of shaman or sorcerer or something. And I was messing with the weather and ended up destroying the village. I mean, I didn't mean to, but I think the image is like some kind of mudslide or something. So they horribly killed me, like by pouring something down my throat and stuff. When this was being shown to me, I went, well, if I was so powerful, how come I couldn't escape or something? And what they showed me was very metaphorical, but there was like this voice going, who are going to be the poor victimized villagers? And all these spirits are going, okay, I'll be one of the villagers. Yeah, I'll be one of the villagers. And okay, who's going to be the evil sorcerer? And I'm going, yeah, okay, I'll take that role. you know, so who knows if it's true? But I've heard other people say similar things that that in some ways we need to even almost respect the people that have done really bad things, because on some level they were willing to take that role and take on that karma.
Somebody had to, yeah.
Yeah. So, who knows what the truth is, but
It's
du
like
jour,
parenting, you usually have a parent that is tougher, like somebody has to do that.
yeah, and I mean, I know that we're all incredibly interconnected, and that it's not an accident. I teach this program every week for a men's group I'm in, and there were a couple of guys who hadn't been there for a few weeks, and I was thinking about them earlier in the day, like, oh, they haven't been there for a while. They both showed up, and like one of them was going, yeah, I wasn't going to show up today, but it popped in my mind, and
Yeah, we
um,
telepathically communicate all the time.
yeah. So and there's times, I don't know if you've ever had the experience where you had a premonition about something, but you went through with it anyways. And and then I would wonder later, well, why did I go through with it, even though I had a really strong sense it wasn't going to be good? But in the sense I would always get is for somehow that was a necessary experience. The premonition just was to prepare me, not to stop me, if you will.
I'm the same way. I see things before they happen, and sometimes I'm like, I could have avoided this, or I could have shifted it. But it comes up to a point that you're like, well, maybe this is what's supposed to happen.
Yeah,
And you
exactly.
just surrender because yes, there is in every situation, every choice we make, there is a win or a lesson, and they're both amazing.
And one I can think of in particular, it turned into a great story, even though it was scary at the time. But again, I had a premonition and still did it. So you have to wonder. But besides that, I mean, we all know we're all so interconnected with each other. So if that's true, then how could we not be planning things out together?
How could a person use energetic NLP to facilitate bringing that heaven onto earth into their lives?
To me, it's sort of two main parts. One is clearing what's in the way, and the other is opening up the potential that's already there inside of us. And so what are the things that are in the way? And when I say that they're in the way, there's that saying from Taoism, what's in the way is the way. So I don't think those blocks are bad or wrong, but they're opportunities to shift. So people have all kinds of unconscious and energetic and conscious programming beliefs that interfere with it. A lot of people were trained that they can't connect to spirit unless it's through somebody. It has to be through a guru or a priest or a shaman or somebody superior to you, that you don't have the right to do it yourself. Lots of people have unconscious programming that they're not deserving or worthy of connecting with spirit. Other people have beliefs that something bad will happen. Like there's a lot of old stories, like in a lot of the old movies and stuff, when Moses comes down from the mountain, all of a sudden his hair is white and everything, that you're going to get fried, if you connect to spirit. So that's one level. There's the beliefs and programming, there's karma, and there are spiritual contracts. And also, anytime we've had spiritual teachers, it's in this or other lifetimes, it's very likely that they put limits on us. And maybe that was a good thing, at that time. A lot of us spiritual teachers would consciously or unconsciously limit their students so that they didn't get out of control or beyond what the teacher could help them with. Or sometimes it was ego on the part of the, not wanting the student to be better than the teacher. And, most religions are hierarchical, that there's the superior people in that religion. And it's really funny because a lot of religions and systems talk about connecting to your intuition and your truth. But as a friend of mine said, like, yeah, in our religion, as long as your intuition agrees with the elders, that's fine. um, and for women, of course, there were a lot of that was either the men were the ones who could do, the women could kind of help, kind of like nuns versus priests. But not that, but that's common in a lot of religions. And there were some it was the other way around, that the women were the ones who could do that and the men couldn't. So the point of all that is we just have all kinds of programming from this and other lifetimes, from family, from society, to be afraid of really connecting to spirit. Sometimes there's fears like, oh, if I do that, I'm going to have to change everything in my life, or I'm going to have to do a vow of poverty and walk around with my rice bowl and only help the poor. And, people just have all these different beliefs about that it will somehow limit their freedom rather than expand it, or that they won't be able to handle it. So one part of it is clearing and healing that, changing any karma that's in the way, changing of these spiritual contracts. So those are like the major things to clear and heal. Then the other side of it is opening people up. So, there's the concept of empowerments. And I've had 2 empowerments from the Dalai Lama, one on opening my ability to heal other people. And the idea of an empowerment is it gives you more ability and it opens the door, and then you need to work with it. But they help open the door. And I always have to say to people, like, sometimes when I tell people I had empowerments from the Dalai Lama, it wasn't, he wasn't in my living room sipping tea. There were hundreds, if not thousands, of people getting the empowerment. Because sometimes people go, wow, and I go, no, and it wasn't like we weren't having a beer or a tea together. And just for everybody listening, if you ever have a chance to go to one of his empowerments, because normally he just gives talks, which are a whole different things. When he gives empowerments, he connects to these energies that have been built up for hundreds and hundreds of years in Tibetan Buddhism that he has the right to access as the Dalai Lama. And one time I was watching a huge arcs of energy coming off of him. I was like, going, it's like, well, that's impressive, And then you can feel it and your life gets different. So the point of all that is the clearing aspect and then the opening and the blossoming aspect.
Shall we do an energetic NLP meditation for our VIP to help us blossom into the beauty and the amazingness that we could be?
That would be fantastic.
That felt so amazing. I felt like I had an entire soul recalibration in
Oh, cool.
alignment with the spirit. And it's just interesting to be the observer and be like, okay, I'll set back. You do what it needs to be done and just simply observe and watch and receive. That was amazing.
Oh, that's great because you spend so much time helping other people. It's wonderful to see you just.
Yeah, it's nice to take the back seat. I'm like, oh, this is good. Thank you. I feel like so many of us are awakening to the ability of receiving and that awakening that divine feminine to receive because we're so good at giving. And
Mhm.
it's interesting that in your work you actually attract majority of your clients are females and they're very much givers. And I want to
Yes.
know how you address this question with your group when it comes
Well,
to
I
giving
have to
or
laugh.
receiving.
There's a men's group that I'm in, really great men, and one of them started coming to some of my programs online, and he's going like, "Wow, I can't believe how many women there are." And I go, well, women are ahead of men. They're more interested in personal and spiritual development. Men are learning. We're following behind happily. I'm sorry, what was your question again?
The
About
question is,
yeah,
because you have all these women and you work with them,
yeah,
and I've got to experience and meet quite a few of them,
yeah.
they're naturally such big givers. What is your guidance for them to kind of find that balance in their lives?
Yeah. So part of it is clearing, and in my gift, people can use it to help with this. Clearing all the old programming, the ancestral programming, that the role of women was just to give, just to give, just to sacrifice. And, part of the programming women had was really about, having children and babies and like, okay, it's your job to take care of them. And that gets applied to, to people that are not babies. And um, so part of it is really starting to see other people as being much more powerful than they think they are. And the more you recognize that everybody's a beautiful and powerful spiritual being, and that you can just sort of hold the space for them to connect more with that. It helps me when I realize that just because somebody's, and I don't mean to be callous at all to people suffering, but when you do energy healing on people, there's a lot of times when their spirit won't let you do the healing. And it's a little bit like when we said earlier, even when you have a premonition and you go through with it, certain things are just on people's path. So being more and more attuned to when, even though somebody's having a hard time, and you can be caring and you can be supportive if it's appropriate to be supportive, but at the same time to realize they're on a path and it's not necessarily even the right thing to do to try to shift it unless their spirit really wants you to. So in
Mhm.
my programs, I teach my students to ask the other person's miraculous self, like, what do we have permission to do? I mean, many years ago, sometimes in my programs, people would bring in guests so that they could practice on. And this man was brought in, and I'm looking at his energy, and I was shown that if he didn't do something, he'd die in about 6 months. And I started giving him a healing, and a voice yelled in my ear, "Back off!" Just like, I mean, it was like, okay, And then I checked with somebody else, and they got the same message, and it was like, okay, it's not for me to judge his life path. So I don't know if that's helpful, but it's starting to tune in more intuition and is it your role to help this person? If so, in what way? And to be able to give yourself permission that it's not necessarily what their spirit even wants for you to take
Mm.
charge.
And
So there's a
sometimes you might help somebody in actually stagnating their growth because you're not allowing them to go through the things they have to go through.
yeah, the whole codependency thing that you keep people from getting to the point where they change, um, or spoiled children where I saw a woman on TV and she went and was living with a lot of indigenous people in different places and just noticing some of what they did around childhood that worked really well. And part of it was children had responsibilities at a really young age, but not like overburdening responsibilities, but they were taught to develop character. And I was just there as a tourist, so maybe I misunderstood, but I was in Peru once. I remember up in the mountains, you'd see the native Peruvian children, and sometimes there'd be these little kids out, with sheep or something or llamas, and there'd be like no adults anywhere, and you get arrested in the United States if you did that. And
I
they
grew
appear,
up that way. I had the list of things to do since I was a little kid, and I was on my own. You don't have like parental control to go to school or here and
yeah,
there. It's different.
yeah, when you can overdo it, but I mean, these kids seem super happy. And again, I was there as a tourist. So, but my observation was that they really felt like they were part of the family and what they did was important. I mean, that was the feel I got from them. But it wasn't like child labor where they're in a factory for, I'm talking about that, but where they weren't overly babied, if that's the way to put it. So,
Hmm.
I don't know if that's helpful, but this woman wrote this book and she was trying to incorporate what her observations were about things that's really helped a lot of these children because they did feel like what they did was meaningful. I guess that's the bottom line.
Well, we allowed them early on to learn that trust and become those humans instead of be like, no, I'm just gonna baby you. I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know. And then someday you're gonna be a person too, maybe when you turn 20 and you leave the house.
Yeah, I was. I only give child rearing advice when asked, and I always go like, I don't have children. So weirdly, people usually tell me what I suggest works. I always go, just take it with a grain of salt. My brother's a great father, and my sister-in-law is a great mother. And I almost never would say anything, but when my niece years ago was applying for colleges, they really got involved. And at one point I said to my brother, like, I just want to say one thing is that mom never interfered with me at all in my choice. She let me choose where I wanted to go to school. I mean, there was a budget, but within that budget, she just trusted me to figure it out. My brother kind of, but yeah, it's finding that balance of being a great caring parent and at the other time letting people develop and grow. So coming back to women in general, part of it is asking more for guidance from your miraculous self, but there is a lot of like clearing the old programming where it's that out of control, having to take care of people. And that programming it's easy to change if you really intend to.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. This has been such a beautiful, deep conversation. For those of you who are still searching, who are still contemplating what's the modality for me, what's the person for me, if energetic NLP and what Art shared about, if that's something that piqued your curiosity and you want to learn more about, then please find the link below and continue with Art on this. Art, is there anything else you would like to share with our audience in conclusion?
Yeah, it's just that everybody is this vast, powerful, beautiful being, and that anybody who wants to develop their spiritual and energetic abilities can do it. And it's not everybody's interest or path, but I always like to let people know that everybody can do what appear to be magical energy things, whether it's remote energy work or anything else. And that I just really want to encourage people, if they're interested, pursue it. And the other thing is to work on whether you use things like my gift to clear the old programming and karma, or if you use other ways, but to do work to really clear the old blocks and then just open up the amazing, magical person you are and have fun doing it.
Have fun discovering the amazingness that you already are. And if you need a guide, Art is ready to help.
And
Beautiful.
thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for letting me be part of this. These programs that you do, these soul programs are just so helpful to people, and you get so many great people doing presentations. So thank you for the gift you are to the world.
Thank you, Art. It's been such a pleasure and such an honor. And to have you as also in my corner is that beautiful, amazing, wise guide. I am truly grateful and truly lucky to have known you and still continue to do so. Thank you.
Feel the same way. Thank you.